Hello and welcome to the fourth and final part of this series when we are developing a small React Pomodoro timer. In the previous video, we created all the logic, we developed all the logic of our timer and everything is now working well. But we need to do one last thing. When the timer is finished and reach 0, we want to show a small modal that will just show another timer for the break one. As you may know, Pomodoro is like 25 minutes of activity, then 5 minutes of break, then 25, etc. So we want to have a small modal that will just say, okay, take a break, and now we start when it's finished. This modal will also have two buttons, one button to stop and one button to directly restart if you don't want to pass 5 minutes to make your break. So, before starting to implement the modal, we have a small problem to handle and to acknowledge, which is kinda complex to explain at first, but it will be easier when we come to it. When I want to show a modal in HTML, I want to have it on the topmost part of my HTML code. If I can show you the HTML of my app, we know that we have a div ID app here, which contains all of our React stuff. If I want to say, okay, this app will show a modal, the modal will be shown inside of this. And as we may know here, because it's hovered, we know that the div ID app is just a small div. It didn't take the whole part of the body, and that can be a problem. One way to solve that is just to say, okay, I want to have another div here that will host our modals. But yeah, that's what we would have do if we work with another templating stuff or templates coming from the server like in PHP and stuff. But in React, it's not working like that. Everything under our React app is in the div ID app. But React came with a really good utility that is called the portals. A portals is just a part of your React app that is rendered in another div. So it's just solving the problem for us. We will create another div here, which will receive specific styles to handle modals and stuff. And we will just create a portal to say that our app will render the modal inside this one div instead of inside the tree. So we will just create the div, the according div inside our code. Modals. And we will also add some styles on it, so we know that that's all we need. So see styles, we have the main CSS, and we will just say okay. For the modals div, we'll just add a position fixed. We will also give him top 0, right 0, bottom 0, and left 0. We are ensuring that the content will be centered, so by display flex, justified content center, and align items center. We need to be sure that it will be on the top of everything. We don't have a lot of stuff here, but okay, so we will do 1000 in the index. And the last thing we want is to have the background color to be a black RGBA black color with a bit of transparency. We will not apply that on the modals, I'm sorry. We will just call that modal overlay. That will be the style that we will apply to the stuff that we will insert here, but so the styles are already ready. So okay, we have our div, we already have our styles, so now we will create our model. For that, we will create a components modal folder, and inside it we will create our components modal index.js. So our model will be fairly simple, but we will need the create portal mechanism that will import from React DOM this time. Okay, so creating the model. And here the model will be just, instead of returning the content of the model, like we wanted to say, like we can say, okay, div. I already forgot how I named the class. So modal overlay, sorry, modal overlay. Okay, so we have the modal overlay, and then we will use some styles from Bulma. It will say class name box simply. And for now, just for the stuff here, we will say a small h4 saying it's over. Oh. Sorry, please take a short break. That's okay for now. But as I said, we will use a create portal mechanism, so it's not simply returning the content, it's returning the content, create portal the content, and so that's create portal. And create portal is working like render, React DOM render. So here it's the content and then the DOM element we want to insert the code here. So query selector modals. That's okay for the modal right now. We will add a lot of behavior in it, but for now that's okay. We will also prepare the prop types, even though they are empty for now. And we will export default modal. Okay, so now we want to use it. So what we wanted here is to say, okay, when the timer is finished, I want to show the modal. For that, I will create a use state. A state variable to say show modal. I need the setter to set show modal. Use state false. By default, the modal will not be shown. And when we will call the timer finished callback, we will just say set show modal true. That's the stuff. And now, inside the code here, we can just say, at any place, like here, show modal, and if show modal, we will just show the modal, call the modal element. The modal element will just be like that. So when modal is true, we will show the modal. And since the modal is using a portal, we know that it will not be rendered inside this div, but outside in our modals div. So now I will just temporarily change the constant because we don't want to wait 25 minutes to test. And we will just test that. Now we have a modal for when our timer is done. Okay, so that's nice, but now I want to add more inside this modal. I want to add two things. The first one is to say, okay, I just want to close the modal and stop there. Just say, okay, stop there. And then I want to have another button that say close the modal and restart a new timer. So we will just add the buttons in the modal. Here. We will need our NBSP constant. And we will also need our button. Which is in tools button. So here we will create two buttons. One button that will be called stop. And one button that will be called restart. The behavior of those two buttons will just be handled by the parent. So I need to get from the parent two callbacks that will be called onClose. Oops. And on restart. And here simply say on click on close and on click on restart. We don't forget to declare that here. So on close will be a prop types func for a function, and it needs to be required, and on restart will be the same. So prop types func is required. And that's all for now. We need to go back into our Pomodoro timer, our Pomodoro container, and we need to implement the handle close modal that we will do here. Handle close modal. We already declared that as use callbacks because we know what we want. And handle restart. Okay, so we can give those two functions to the component already. Sorry. So here on close will be handle close modal, and on restart will be handle restart. That's okay. Now the content of those functions. The close modal will just close the modal and reset the timer. So closing the modal is really easy. We just need to say set show modal to false. And resetting the timer to its default is already handled by the handle reset callback here. So I will just call it from here. The handle restart, so now I can just define my dependencies. So handle reset and set show modal. Oh, sorry. And the handle restart will do closing the modal, resetting the timer, restarting the timer. So it's the same to first as here. So I will simply call handle close modal and handle start handle play pause. Okay, so I need to add my two dependencies here, handle play pause. Okay, I can test that. Sorry, I have an issue in my modal component. Oh yeah, I'm using prop types without declaring it. That's not a good idea. So prop types from prop types. Okay, so now I can see I have a timer of 0.3 seconds. I now have my modal and I can say stop. It's closing the timer and resetting it. Or I can say restart, which close the timer and running it. So I can run indefinitely if I want. Okay, so that's the stuff. Now I want one last thing inside my modal is to have a timer to be shown for a break. So for that, I need two things. I need the component to show the timer, so the display, and I need the logic to handle my timer. But we already did that, and we did that in a hook. So we have a use timer hook that we can simply reuse inside our modal. So we separated the logic outside of the container so we can reuse it. And that's why the hooks are very powerful. We just extract the logic elsewhere and we can reuse it when we want. So back to our modals. We will import the use timer hook. And we will also need to define, and we don't need that. We will also define a new constant for the break. The break duration that we call here break duration, and for now we will just do it like 3 seconds, but it should be 5 minutes. We will fix that later, but just for the tests it's better to be like a few seconds. So here we will import the break duration, the use timer, and we also need the display component to show the timer. Yeah, so here we will simply show our display component that requires the seconds, and I think that's all. Let's check. Display only needs seconds, so that's okay. And now we just need to set up our timer, which will be done here. We have running and seconds, and set running and set seconds will never be called. Okay, use timer. So the default duration will be break duration. Here we want the timer to be started when the modal is initiated. So when the modal is called, we will use on true. We will use true. And when the timer is done, we want to close the modal and restart the timer. And that's something we already have the action for, is the onRestart callback that we received from the parent. So we will use it here as a parameter. And now we have everything. I don't even think I need the running stuff, because here we are just showing the seconds passing. I don't need the set running right now, but I know that I will need it in a second, so I kept here. So okay, now I can test and say I'm starting, waiting 3 seconds. Now the timer is already starting, and now we see that everything's working well. Up and up and up. I can say stop here, and everything's fine. And if I don't want to make a break, I can start it here. Okay, but I have a small issue that I can't really. So it's something that is really difficult to show in the tests, is that the fact that when I close the modal before the timer is finished, technically it should be cleaned, but I want to be sure. So I want to be sure to close the modal timer when I stop it before it ends. So for that I will need to call setRunning false when I click on one of those 2 buttons. And for that I will need to use something. I have this function here. So what I want to do is something like that, is having a function, making setRunning false, and then on close. That's what I want here, and here from on restart I want the same thing, setRunning false, and on restart. But yeah, there's something that bothering me here, is that the fact that I have 2 functions that are doing the same. It's just calling setRunning to false and then calling another stuff. So yeah, maybe I can do that in a more clever way. And for that, I will create a function that returns a function. That's a bit complex, but it's something that we can use a lot in React and in JavaScript in general. So I will show you that right now. So I will create a function that I will call stop then. I will put it in a use callback, just because. And this function needs to do what? This function needs to do setRunning false, and then call one of those callback. But how can I receive that? Because it's just a function that needs to run. So what I can do is to say, okay, I will call that as a function, giving it the callback that I will call next. It will return the function, And inside this function, I will have access to next. So I will call next here. And now, I just need to, don't forget to define the set running dependency. And now I can just replace my on clicks here by stop, then on close, and stop, then on restart. So when I call stop then, I execute this all function. And this all function is like, okay, I have next variable here and I will return the function. So stop then is just stop then on close now is just this function with next as on close value. And when it will be run by clicking on the button, it will say, you will do set running false and then calling next, which is on close. Same here for stop then. Stop then on restart will just create this function and save on restart in the next variable here. And when I will click on my button, it will execute this function with on restart as next. So it will do set running false and call on restart. So that's a very useful way to create like function composition, which is completely the stuff, but by just saying, okay, I have a function that returns another function. I just need to import use callback because I'm using it, so I need to import it. And now we can test that. Up. The bug was kind of difficult to reproduce, but now we know that the timer inside the modal is closed when we close the modal before the stuff. So, okay. Last thing to implement is to have here our is to fix our constants. That will be 1,500 and 300. So 25 and 5 minutes. And that's all. Our Pomodoro is now finished. So we will make our commit. Cercicor hooks. No, it's not a Cercicor. Oops, it's a Cercicor. Okay, just add break. Okay, our Pomodoro timer is now finished. So the last thing we need to do is to publish it. We want it online, and for that we will use Netlify. Before using Netlify, I need to be sure that my repository is okay. So as you may see, I create tag for all the parts of the video, so you can follow the progress commit by commit. And here I just need, I will need to publish on Netlify, and when it will be published, I will modify the README with all the video addresses and the Netlify address. So I will put the tag, the last tag, after I record the video when I will be finished. So that's okay for us now. I will push everything to my repository. So we can check here. Yeah, sorry, remind me later. So here I am with my repository. We see that we have everything. So now the next part is to put that on Netlify. So Netlify is just here. Netlify is just a really great tool that is not free to use with specific stuff. I will let you dig around, but when I connect to Netlify, and I will use I already connected, but I use my GitHub account, I can simply say, okay, I want a new site from Git. Okay, so from GitHub, it will open my GitHub account, and I will be able to get Pomidor from here. Okay, it's private right now, but it's not a big issue. Yeah, it's not an issue. So I select it. Netlify will try to discover anything he needs to deploy our project. He will say, okay, I will run the build command as npm run build, which is something that is already configured for us. We can just say in the package.json here, build will just build parcel for production and npx parcel build, so it's okay for us. And the publish directory will be dist, and we know that parcel is bundling our content inside the dist folder, so it's okay. I don't need to change anything here. I have advanced parameter, but I don't need anything. I just say deploy site. It's in progress, so we can see what it is. It will take a bit of time, but so Netlify will download our content. It will install all the dependencies that we need. So parcel, Node.js, then parcel, then all the stuff that we need. Then he will run the npm run build command. So he will build our website with parcel, and then he will put the content of the dist folder inside a folder that will be accessible for us in an address that Netlify will give us. This address will be like epic franklin fb6b5a.netlify app, something like that. But you can use one of your own domain by simply use the settings of Netlify. Here I don't need that, so we will use this URL. So here we can see Netlify is ready. He will build our command, our site. So he run npm run build. So we can wait for that. He say, okay, everything's completed. He deployed the site from dist to his own stuff. And so now everything's working. So we can preview the website, and we see here, but that's not a good URL, it's just a preview. We can come back to the site, and now we have the address epicfranklin.netlify.app, and we have our timer here. That is working in the same way of our local version, but it's now online. Okay, so that's for the stuff. I hope that everything was explained well. If you have any question, I strongly recommend you to go to the GitHub repository, take time to read the code and so on. But if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask in the comments of the video or create an issue on the repository. I thank you for following this video, and I wish you a very nice day. Bye.